Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Laura Nickerson. I'm a registered nurse by trade, and my side passion hobby is wildlife rehab and rescue. And I was appointed by Sacramento County.
Richard?
Hi, I'm Richard Hunn. I was appointed by Sacramento County, and I'm an environmental planner with about 40 years experience.
Before we continue on, Dr. Casserier, welcome. Always happy to have you. And Matt,
Thank you.
welcome also as, I guess, one of our public observing this.
Mark, Matt's one of our speakers tonight.
Oh, Matt is one of our speakers. Okay,
Correct.
Well, he's also one of the public. What we're doing is we are waiting one of our members. So we're just going around my screen, introducing ourselves and telling you a little about our background. So Tom, you're up next.
Yes, I'm Tom Mawson. I represent the cities of Folsom, Ileton, and Galt, and I'm a retired Aerojet engineer.
Thank you. Jeannie, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jania Monasterio. I am the Environmental Health Division Chief at Environmental Management Department.
And I'm Mark White. I was a consultant to the garbage industry. I'm a representative of the county. And Matt, you want to tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Matt Parker. I am actually based in Fresno, California, but I work for the Institute for Wildlife Studies as a non-lead outreach specialist. So I have a short presentation about the benefits of using non-lead ammunition here for you guys shortly. And I'm excited to address the commission.
And Dr. Casserier, I think everybody here knows you. If we don't, we should. You've been a fixture for a long time, but if you'd like to say a few words, please do so.
Hi, I'm Dr. Olivia Casserier, Public Health Officer, and I too have a short presentation. I hope someone will pull it up once we're ready for it. I'll do that. Okay, thank you.
So why don't we go ahead and go back to our agenda. This is the October 18th meeting of the Sacramento Environmental Commission. Jill, can you call roll, please?
Yes. Mark White.
Here.
Richard Hunn.
Here.
Tom Mulson.
Here.
Laura Nickerson.
Here.
Eric Rivera Montez.
Here.
Shelby Weatherby. So we do not have a quorum tonight, but we can proceed with presentations, just not voting matters.
And we can add Shelby in when she gets here to make our quorum. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to make comments at this point? I see everybody else is on the agenda already, so we're rocking and rolling. So Dr. Casserier, what's going on with health in Sacramento County?
Have to get off of mute. So
Can you see my screen okay?
yes, thank
Yes.
you. Thanks, Jill. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time. Usually I give you an update on matters of interest, and usually that every time you invite me, there's always something going on. Yes, twice now, we're still dealing with COVID-19. So I figured I'd talk a little bit about that. And last time, I think I told you a little bit about the history, where we've been from. And I think by that time we had not started the vaccination yet, but at least now we are at the vaccination phase. We are right at the cusp of being able to get a vaccine for younger children, 5 to 11, still waiting for it to get through the regulatory process. And as far as cases, we are still in wave 4, but at least the numbers are reducing. So it does look a little bit better. One of the things I wanted to talk about during this short time is a presentation that we were given last week. This is from CDPH. So this is statewide data. I have requested the county data, but I don't have it yet, but I think that it's going to be very similar. Because one of the questions that, of course, many of you have heard is COVID this bad? How serious is it? How much has it impacted us? And so one of the things that came through when the state was looking at data of deaths was that we have what we call excess mortality, meaning that the number of deaths were much higher than the previous years. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that they talked about. Next slide. So this just a background. Again, it's observations that have been made, and especially the fact that the deaths have increased in 2020, and much of that is due to COVID-19, but also looking at how it has impacted other diseases as well, and disparities in patterns and trends, because I think it's important for us to start looking at that even as we hopefully getting to the point where we're managing COVID-19, but also looking at what are the lessons learned and how do we go from here. Next slide. So real briefly, the methods that were used by the state, they depend a lot on the data that comes from death certificates. Every case, every death in the county needs to be reported to public health, and we review the deaths before they are certified and filed and sent to the state. And the state also does their own cleaning and analysis. So this just shows you, and mainly what they were looking at, because usually there's the primary cause of death as well as underlying causes, but they focused on the primary causes. And then for population data, which they used to calculate rates, they were using the Department of Finance, and then they used a method called age-adjusted rates. Basically what they're saying is they use a methodology so that they can compare from one population to another, and they make the adjustments because every single community has a different age setup, so they have to make adjustments for it so that they can compare. And of course, they break it down by race, ethnicity, and age as well. So next slide. So this is the first slide. And one thing, again, we've mentioned, increase in rates accelerated through 2020. So the green shows you 2020, and they broke it into quarters, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4. So as time went on, you can see that the deaths due to COVID or that were contributed to by COVID were increased more and more. And you can see the gap compared to 2017, 18, and 19. And there was a 30% increase in death rates in the fourth quarter of 2020 compared to 2019, and 37% increase in deaths in first quarter of 21. And I don't think 21 is, oh yeah, it's shown here at the beginning, first quarter of 21 compared to the first quarter of 2019. So again, showing you just how many, what the impact was, and this is just California that we're looking at. Next slide. So this shows you again the same data, but showing you more of the numbers. So it shows you the number of deaths for each of the years, and this is like total. And then the age-adjusted death rate, and this is where you see that prior to 2020, we were actually seeing a reduction in death rate, and then in 2020, it went up 15.8%. And according to the data that they were looking at, this is the highest increase that we have seen since 2008. Next slide. And then this shows you by race ethnicity. And you can see that the rate increase was 34% among Latinos. And for the whites that had the lowest increase, it was 7.5. And then for each of the other groups, it was about 20% among the other groups. So you can see the disparity right here. Next slide. And then this shows you, again, it's the same information, but it's breaking it down by quarters. And you can see that for each of the quarter, the increase for the Latino group was consistently higher, and again, much larger than we had seen in previous years. Next slide. So I wanted to spend a little time to explain this slide because the top part shows you the rate increase, which is what I had shown you before. That shows that the Latinos have the highest increase. And that's looking at rate, but there's a different way of looking at the data where you're looking at the excess mortality, and it shows you the formulas so you can see the difference. So the bottom one looks at the population, the 2020 population. And when you look at that, you actually see that for Blacks and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, they had the highest excess mortality rate. And especially the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders at the beginning of the pandemic, they had some really large outbreaks, and they tend to be a very close-knit community and multi-generational households. So when they started having cases, we would get entire households getting COVID, and especially the older people would be the ones that would succumb. And so they had quite a number of deaths in that population. But fortunately, with the vaccinations, we've been able to control that. But again, overall, you can see that they got quite a big hit. And with the African Americans, we're still seeing that increase. And unfortunately, we still have low vaccination rates in that population as well as the Latino population. Next slide. So this slide looks at the causes of death in addition to COVID-19. And you've probably heard a lot of people ask questions about the drug overdose and whether there's been an increase, partly because of the isolation and a lot of people not having work. And so exacerbating some of the mental health and behavioral health issues. And you can see that compared to 2019, there was a 46.9% increase in 2020 in the rate of deaths. And of course, remember that all of these are just the tip of the iceberg because we're looking at the deaths, but there are of course a lot of additional injuries that we're not seeing with these numbers here. And then with homicide, a 32.6% increase, with diabetes, a 17.7% increase. And the question about diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, and some of the mental health issues is, what was the impact of COVID-19 and why did we see that increase? Some of it might be due to the fact that actually people with these conditions tended to get more severe cases of COVID-19 and were more likely to end up hospitalized or even die. But the other also is, especially at the beginning when the entire nation was shut down, a lot of the hospitals were having a hard time with being able to get enough PPE, as well as being able to manage all the cases that were coming in. A lot of individuals did delay care. And in fact, a lot of surgeries were, especially those that were considered routine, were delayed. And I think what we're hearing from the hospitals is that after they opened up, they were seeing a lot of people coming in with much more severe disease conditions. And so I think that's part of the combination we're seeing. That's a side effect of the COVID-19 and the impact that it had on our healthcare system. Next slide. So this has a lot of information in it. If you look on the left-hand side, again, it shows you the different diseases over the different quarters. And if you look at the orange line that's going almost from 0 all the way up to the top, that's COVID-19. And this is mathematical scale, log scale. So it's not the same as what I was showing you before where we were looking at rate, but it gives you an idea of the rate of increase. And you can see just how rapidly COVID-19 deaths increased. And by the end of 2020, COVID-19 was the leading cause of death. On the right-hand side, the two charts, you can see the differences for males and females. And the bottom one shows for overdoses that there was a much greater increase for the male population. So all of these are things that we need to look at, diseases that we need to address, and disparities that we need to address right now. Next slide. So this also includes a lot of information because it's showing you the breakdown by race, ethnicity. At the top, you see the different columns. And then the scale on the left-hand side shows you the age. And basically what this is trying to show you is that the impact of COVID-19, apart from seeing the differences by race, ethnicity, it also impacted the different ages differently. And what you can see here is that of the older age groups, the highest increase in deaths, and that's the blue parts of the bars, were due to COVID. And then for the younger ones, it was more due to other causes, such as we've talked about, the overdose and other issues such as diabetes and mental health issues. So showing you again some of the differences and nuances and how COVID-19 impacted the older population much more than the younger. In fact, at the beginning, about 80% of our deaths in 2020 were in people over the age of 65. That has since changed, where now we're, especially after the vaccination efforts, where we had very high vaccination rates for especially people living in long-term care facilities, the deaths dropped in that population. And with especially the Delta variant, we are now actually seeing more of an increase in the young adult and adult population, especially ages about 30 to 55. Where we are actually now seeing more of an increase in deaths due to COVID. Next slide. This one shows you life expectancy, another way of looking at the impact of COVID-19 on our population. The Asian population is the orange one and still has the highest life expectancy, but you can see that it dropped from 2019 to 2020. The white population is the light green, and it seems like that one, there was a very slight drop. I think it was the smallest drop in life expectancy. The largest drop was for the Latinos, and you can see how much of a drop that was. And then African Americans continue to have the lowest life expectancy, and that also dropped. Next slide. So in summary, and I know I've gone over a lot of this information very quickly, but hoping that just to show you some of the data that we're looking at, is that there has been a large impact of COVID-19 on our communities. And this is partly shown by the excess mortality in 2020, and it has actually continued into 2021. Apart from the direct impact of COVID-19, we are also seeing increase in deaths in other diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, drug overdose, homicide, and heart disease, and others. Part of that might be due to the fact that the people with these conditions are at higher risk of getting severe COVID-19, ending up in hospitalization and death, but it's also partly due to delayed care. And of course, showing you the differences by race, ethnicity, and by age. Next slide. And this one I won't spend a lot of time on, but of course they always want to tell you some of the limitations, the fact that this data set was only looking at the primary cause of death. So there's probably an undercounting of some of the diseases such as COVID-19 if it wasn't put as the primary cause. And then also some limitations with some of the population data. Next slide. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but on this slide, but some of the additional considerations, what role COVID-19 played in increasing other disease conditions, the disparities in excess mortality, why are they so strong? We know that occupation and social distancing is easier in certain populations than others. And I also explained the impact that we saw in one of the tight-knit communities, the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. So all of those are issues. This does not show the data on suicide because the numbers are low, but we do know that it seemed like there was an increase, and it seems like sadly is seeing an increase in suicides in the 5 to 14-year age group. So the factors that contributed to that and what can we do to prevent some of these very unfortunate deaths. Next slide. So I like this slide because even as we are thinking that we're getting to the point with the vaccine being more available, that we're managing COVID-19, and it might be another disease like the flu where we just have to get vaccinations. But what are the lessons learned? And when you look at 1918, there were disparities in flu mortality in the 1918 pandemic, and the disparities in mortality and transmission that were related to social demographic factors. And 100 years later, we are seeing the same thing where we're seeing differential burden by neighborhood, by population, and even by insurance coverage. And so if we do not address health equity right now or address health inequity, we are bound to create exactly the same conditions when the next pandemic hits, where communities that are underserved, communities that don't have equal access to health, and where there are disparities by social demographics, that when there's another disaster, that they will differentially be hit much harder and have a harder time recovering. And so one of the areas that we're looking at in public health for us to focus on is being able to address some of these health inequities. And one thing that has come through as we have worked to help the communities is the importance for us of being able to work and collaborate with the community-based agencies, and also to develop that trust with communities, because it's been really hard and disheartening when we're trying to provide people with the correct information about vaccines, and then just to have someone, unknown character, comes on TikTok, says some really outrageous thing, and people so easily believe it. But these are things that we need to address and recognize that, especially with the online media, that we need to be able to have more of a presence and be able to combat some of the misinformation, and also to develop that trust so that we're able to be there to provide accurate information and to also provide services to communities that are hurting. I believe that is the last slide. So, oh, well, sorry, my apologies. yeah, this was another one that they showed that I thought was quite, impactful, that we're already barreling towards the next pandemic. And this one is far from over, but the window to prepare for future threats is upon us. And that we need to address equity, because we have seen how communities have been disparately impacted because of the health inequities in our communities. I believe this time this is the last slide. So thank you again for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kasserier. Does anybody have any questions? Any of the commission members?
I have a comment.
That's a good start.
So thank you, Dr. Kasseri. That was very interesting. One of the things I just wanted to echo is being a working registered nurse, we experienced both the delay in treatment issues, making their diseases worse. And we also experienced talking till we're blue in the face with information as medical experts, and still some people would not get it, get the vaccine. So it is quite a challenge,
Thank you, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other commission members have a comment or a question? If not, I have one or two. You mentioned the word age adjusted a couple times. How do you go out in general calculate something like that?
So basically, there are a couple of methods that they can use for adjusting for age. One of them is by having what they call a control group that has a certain set of the different age groups. And then they make calculations between and this is used especially when you're comparing different populations, so that each of the populations is compared to this control group, and that helps you to control for differences in age. And this is especially important when you're looking at, for example, one community that might have a much larger population that is older. And so if you do not adjust for it, you'll find that when you're just looking at it, you might think that it might exaggerate the differences that you see with, for example, if you're looking at COVID-19, especially if you're looking at a population that is older compared to another one that might be younger. So what you do is, if you make the calculations based on a standard or control group, then you're able to make adjustments for that and make it easier for you to compare without having that disparity due to the different setup of the population. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. It's a little difficult without the formula. Maybe I'll send you the formula afterwards. It might make it a little easier.
You can do that if you wish. I would understand significantly less of it than you. If you compared those numbers, the age adjusted, just to the per 100,000 population, do we know how that would compare?
Well, what they do is actually that's when you're calculating the rate. So you're not, when we do the rate, it's part of it is you make it to 100,000. So again, you're able to compare different populations, because each population is, some of them, for example, if you compare Sacramento County, we have 1.5 million, whereas El Dorado County has 200,000. So how would you compare the two? That's why you make it a rate, and you make it to 100,000. So you divide and then multiply by the 100,000, and that makes it easier for you to compare.
Yeah, to understand the real number. When you get a death certificate that has two causes of death, for example, let's say COVID and Alzheimer's, which do you identify as the primary?
It's dependent on the physician. They're the ones who make the physician who signs the death certificate makes the determination on which one is the primary cause. And that's very dependent on the course of the illness prior to the person's death. And I'll give you two examples. in one situation, maybe someone was in a memory care center, so I'd had Alzheimer's. They had an outbreak there, person got COVID and deteriorated, ended up in the hospital with pneumonia, and ended up on a vent and ended up dying. In a situation like that, you would say that COVID-19 was the primary cause of death, but then secondary will be things like Alzheimer's, because your expectation is that the person having Alzheimer's, they put them at risk and may have contributed to the progression of the disease. In another situation, you might have someone who has diabetes, did recover from COVID-19, but went home on a vent, maybe later on had secondary infections because they have the diabetes and they also have the damage due to COVID-19. So that person might end up with another bacterial pneumonia that might end up killing them. So that will be the primary cause of death. But then on the certificate, diabetes will also be listed as a secondary and COVID as a secondary as well, because those were contributory to the person's decline in health.
So in the case of the diabetes person, that death would go into the COVID death column somewhere in the statistics?
No, because it depends on how the physician puts it down. Like I said, for example, with this set, they only looked as COVID as the primary cause of death. So that means that for someone who died of another, like
Alzheimer's.
Yeah, the COVID will be listed somewhere on the death certificate, but it's not the primary one. So it will probably not be listed as a COVID death. So there is a little bit of undercounting.
Do we have on the horizon some more COVID variants coming at us?
So far, it's Delta is still the predominant one, and some of the other ones that are being watched have not really taken off, and they've been around for a while. So our hope is that this will be it. I really hope so.
Yes, we do too. Are there any other comments for Dr. Kasaria? Go ahead, Eric.
I have a question on vaccines for younger children. Do you know when that might be FDA approved? Any information that might be useful?
It's being discussed right now. It's imminent. I think from the last report that we received, the expectation is that early November, we will be able to start vaccinating.
Wonderful. How low an age will the vaccinations be able to be given?
5.
Any other comments or suggestions or questions? If not, thank you so much for coming over to us this year. We appreciate seeing you again. We always enjoy hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the work you do for all of us.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, our next item. You know what? We probably should go back and do a roll call. Oh, you already did the roll call, didn't you, Jill? So we're clear with that. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, Matt, do you want to talk to us about the non-lead alternatives for ammunition?
I do. I have the PowerPoint. Jill, do you want to do the same thing, or do you want me to share my screen and do it?
You know, if you're comfortable, please go ahead and share.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. And are people seeing my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I know I've introduced myself, but once again, I'm Matthew Parker. I work as a non-lead outreach specialist for the Institute for Wildlife Studies, and I'm grateful to this commission for the opportunity to highlight the subject of non-lead ammunition and why it's important to use it for the take of animals. My goal with this brief presentation is to bring a little bit more awareness to this topic and to highlight how to this commission how I can hopefully be seen as a resource to not only your hunting and ranching community, but to the commission as well going forward. Getting down to brass tacks, the main reason that I'm here is because the use of a lead-based bullet to dispatch an animal can have had negative consequences on the health of scavenging wildlife. Now, when I talk about scavenging wildlife, I refer to both obligate scavengers like species such as the California condor and the turkey vulture, as well as opportunistic scavengers, which applies kind of broadly to a number of raptor species such as the bald eagle and the golden eagle, a number of hawk species, owls, and most of the representatives of the corvid family. And lead is has a wide range of utility and makes a great bullet because it has properties by being soft, malleable, and incredibly dense. But lead also has the unfortunate characteristic of being toxic. And the toxic properties of lead get compounded by the fact that when lead bullets make contact with their target, they can fragment. And they fragment into several hundred small little pieces that become pathways of potential exposure for lead poisoning to scavenging wildlife. And these pathways can materialize different ways. So from the hunting community, you can have pathways of exposure by having hunters leave gut piles behind in the field, or in the rare events where game is wounded and unretrieved, that becomes a potential pathway as well. And this can also happen in the ranching community, where ranchers may be required to dispatch sick or dying livestock, work on depredation, where there might be impacts to their livestock from coyotes or some other predator. And they could use firearms to remove or reduce the impacts of pest species such as feral pigs or ground squirrels. And if they're left to lie in the landscape, then those all, again, become those potential pathways of exposure. And the fragmentation really is a problem for scavengers because the smaller these fragments are, the more risk they serve because they have a higher surface area to volume ratio. And a scavenger has an extremely acidic stomach. And so that helps them break down, not only the carrion that they require for sustenance, but also these lead fragments more easily so that they become absorbed and cause negative impacts to their health. And what happens when a scavenger ingests these lead fragments is lead serves no known biological function. It's a non-essential element. Therefore, the body treats it like something that it actually recognizes and uses. Oftentimes, this is calcium. And when lead is mimicking calcium, it gets transported in the bloodstream throughout the body. And as a result, there's a variety of physiological effects that occur on these scavengers. And of note, there's two systems that really get impacted, even though nearly any system can. The digestive system oftentimes shuts down with lead exposure and poisoning cases. As a result, birds will often be found with big crops where they have food that they're unable to pass through because their system has shut down. And this can lead to secondary infections, as well as emaciation cases where the animals just don't have the nutrients to support themselves. Another system that's severely impacted is the neurological system. And as a result, you'll find birds suffering from lead toxicity displaying signs and symptoms correlated to neurological effects, such as drooping wings, poor proprioception, head tilts and tremors. And these can be lasting consequences, even if a bird is treated with chelation therapy to reduce the impacts and the amount of lead in their system, the situations and even the sublethal effects can be permanent. And further than that, if a bird does have sublethal effects that may not be able to kill that bird outright, it can still put them more at risk from fatalities from other sources, whether that's getting hit by a car or running into power lines or getting predated upon by a predator. But fortunately, this is a solvable problem. And the people who are in the front seat to solve this issue are anyone who uses a firearm for dispatching an animal. And we're fortunate that in 2021, there's a variety of non-lead ammunition available for all different calibers, rifle types, and firearm types. So for shotgun, there's steel, tungsten, and bismuth. All offer effective alternatives that have various application depending on what the shooter's seeking in terms of densities and cost, etc. For rifles, for rimfire specifically is referring to smaller caliber rifles like 22s and 17 calibers, typically what a rancher would use to dispatch small game species like ground squirrels. And there's a number of effective metal alternatives that are classified as non-lead and don't pose the same health risks to scavenging wildlife. For large caliber rifles and that you typically use for big game species, copper or copper alloys are typically the alternative, and they offer a lot of performance advantages for an individual if they're a large game hunter or need a large caliber rifle in their daily life. Another alternative, if it's in a situation where lead is the only available thing, or it's a situation where it's a different state, burying the game or the quarry deep enough for removing all remains from the field is an alternative. But switching the tool to a non-lead option, to me at least, makes a lot more sense. Now, I've only been in California for about 6 months, but even in that time, it's not lost on me that this state has legislation in place requiring the use of non-lead ammunition for take. And so you might be wondering, why is outreach still necessary with that legislation on the books? And I have a couple rebuttals to that. First and foremost, scavenging wildlife are still getting exposed to lead on the landscape in 2021. This year is slated to be particularly bad for the California condor. There have already been a number of lead exposures and deaths attributed to lead toxicity to the central flock. Further than that, there's an ammunition shortage that's been occurring for over a year, and that has limited access to non-lead and all ammunition types for that matter. But someone who seeks non-lead for a very specific caliber may have trouble finding it and may switch to lead if they're in a situation where that's the only available choice that they can find. And I know firsthand from having conversations with hunters and ranchers that some people just have apprehension, whether that's to the effectiveness of non-lead or to the science that backs some of the rationales on the biology side to make that informed choice. And so what we offer by doing non-lead outreach is we help individuals understand how their bullets perform and the impacts that it has. And we do this in a variety of ways. We use positive and apolitical messaging when we give presentations. We sometimes can perform shooting demonstrations, which are a very effective form of outreach. We'll shoot a non-lead and a lead bullet next to each other. And this allows individuals to see, in real time, the fragmentation of lead bullets, as well as the weight retention and performance of non-lead. We'll shoot ballistic gels to highlight terminal ballistics, which is very advantageous for hunters wanting to know how that bullet's going to perform inside of an animal's vitals. We hold booths at exposés and sporting group banquets, and we write articles to engage newsletters and newspapers and try to basically get a diversified audience who might benefit from understanding non-lead outreach. If you guys have any interest in knowing more, being more involved in this issue, being informed and further an advocate for the use of non-lead ammunition, particularly if you have experience using it, can be beneficial. Utilizing websites like huntingwithnonlead.org is supported by the Institute for Wildlife Studies, my organization. And we're also a co-founding member of the North American Non-Lead Partnership, which is a national movement trying to keep hunters and ranchers in the front seat and encouraging a voluntary switch on a national scale to have more hunting but less lead on the landscape. And beyond that, I hope that you guys can think of me as a resource to the ranching and hunting community in Sacramento County. And if you guys know of any groups or events that might benefit from non-lead outreach or newsletters, newspapers, etc., I encourage you to please take my information, get in touch with me, because I'm always looking for more opportunities to conduct outreach and benefit the scavengers in California. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, okay, Richard.
Hey, Matt, thank you. It was a good presentation, very well spoken.
Yeah.
Aren't there already some bans already in place? Isn't lead shot already banned in California for hunting purposes?
For any take. So any take of an animal requires non-lead. Now, that being said, as I stated, there's still evidence that there is lead exposure and lead occurring on the landscape impacting scavengers. And there's been studies, a lot of them done in California, that have done stable isotopic ratio studies that correlate ammunition, the lead in ammunition, to the lead that's presenting in scavengers. So just this year alone, 7 California condors out of the central flock have already passed away from lead exposure. And that flock only, has less than 100 birds in it. So it's still a pretty substantial problem for that species. And that's a species studied on an individual level, which we can't say the same to the eagles and other raptor species out there that still might be suffering from these impacts.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Yeah, Eric?
So is part of the issue that it's cost prohibitive? And if so, is there like a trade-in procedure that you guys could do? Like, I don't know if you've already tried that and if that's been successful trading in. I can imagine maybe somebody has a stockpile full of the other ones and they're using just because they have them.
That is an ongoing issue. Cost is something that's definitely become less of an issue when non-lead hit the market earlier. It definitely was more of an issue, but when we're talking about premium ammunition, so like a premium lead bullet from a premium copper bullet, that we're talking a pretty negligible difference. If you want to, there's cheaper lead options than non-lead options for sure. And that's, the price of copper is higher than the price of lead, even though both have been increasing recently. But the cost is less of an issue than it was previously. It's more, just either apprehension or, I've did events these past weeks. I was at banquets and people told me they didn't believe the science or they didn't think these bullets expanded. And I've also had the other side, people seeing our displays and seeing the fragments of a single bullet. And it's when hearing it's one thing, but being able to see it in real time or seeing our display really is eye-opening for a lot of people we found just from their exposure and what they've come and tell us.
Thank you.
We have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. First is, how about hand loading? What do the hand loading people do? Is it available? Are the bullets available?
Actually, hand loading offers quite a bit more availability, surprisingly, because not only can you're able to order parts of ammunition rather than, if you bought a full factory load, you'd have to have it turned into a registered FFL for the background check to exchange it. But there's also manufacturers out there that, like Hammer and Cutting Edge, they offer these bullets that you can reload, and they can even customize them for any caliber size or options. So there's a number of bullets, and just in terms of the shortage and availability on the shelves, there was more. I know that powders and primers were more of a limiting factor than the bullet type. So there was a good variety of non-lead, relatively speaking, available for reloaders compared to hand loaders. And I know for a lot of people who reload have good experience, especially fine tuning their load, and really dialing it in so that they can make a very effective non-lead round that's got a little deeper seating depth or whatever they need to do, but fine tuning it so they can have a very effective round for filling the freezer.
My second question would be, what do you tell a guy who's got, I don't know, half a dozen boxes of 270 that are lead, and I mean, what do you do with them? Can you turn them in? Can you exchange them?
So I wish is the first answer. I've reached out, I've talked to the state to see if there could be an exchange program or ways to put that into hands for hunter education programs. The issue they have with that is if you they can't take in ammunition and verify that it's all reputable. It just that puts liability in situations where they don't want to have it. So what I encourage people to do is we don't want to be anti-lead. We just want to encourage the use of non-lead ammunition for the take of animals. So going to the range, helping people who are interested in hunting, giving them those experiences, but being able to shoot it at the range, be comfortable in different shooting positions and being a better marksman is my best recommendation for using a stockpile of lead. And I know I've met several people who are in that situation. It's not an easy one, but it's again, if you can use that at the range, that's a great way to do it, becoming a better marksman. And just thinking about what you use for your take is really what I try to do with my outreach work.
I like your support, Matt, on that. I have about 20 pounds of lead shot that I can only use at the ski range. And I would never think about using it for hunting, but I don't hunt anyway. But the ski range is the only place that can use it because they do clean it up once it's been.
And all lead ammunition is recycled. And so all ranges, certified ranges, will have a recycling program where they'll take, remove it from that landscape, recycle it back, and it gets turned back into ammunition. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you, Matt. I'm curious, are you finding that most of the people that you're having issues with are hunters, or are they landowner ranchers that are shooting at pest animals?
Well, one thing that with respect to that, I predominantly talk to hunters over ranchers because I'll oftentimes get more opportunities to have a booth at a Ducks Unlimited banquet or a Kyle Deer Association. I found that it's harder to engage with ranchers than hunters at the end of the day. So most of the non-compliance I've observed, and the thing is, like, people aren't, I have to build credibility doing outreach so that people feel comfortable telling me these things, and we do that. I mean, we're not law enforcement. I'm never going to turn anybody in for admitting they used lead. I'm just going to try to provide that information so that they don't continue to do so. The next thing that we're trying to do is become more involved in the ranching community. It's just harder because there's a lot less sporting, like there's a lot of sporting organizations and ways to interface with hunters that we have just found that it's harder to do with ranchers. But I can't pinpoint that where the lead on the landscape's coming from. I wish that we could tell from isotopes whether it's just 22s over big calibers, but we just don't have that science with us. So my experience as non-compliance is more attributed to hunters, but that's because I typically engage with hunters more.
So
I have a comment concerning that, because I do know that ranchers a lot of times will allow hunters to take care of some of their problem issues, like wild pigs and ground squirrels. And they'll just let the hunters come on their property and take care of them for them. So yeah, you're getting more bang for your buck, I think, is by talking to the hunters.
And the other thing is, again, I work for a nonprofit, and again, my ability to do outreach is built on credibility and by people agreeing to, like this commission for agreeing me to let me speak. And sometimes if people think I'm an anti-Second Amendment, or they think I'm representing the government, or just have some reservations or think I have some hidden agenda, it's harder for me to even just get that platform to conduct the outreach. Usually when people hear what I have to say, it's at least can lead to a conversation where even if they disagree, at the end of the day, they'll hear what I have to say and appreciate that all I'm coming from is a standpoint to benefit hunters, benefit ranchers, and benefit wildlife.
Oh, I have a comment and a question. So when I've actually seen lots of birds, unfortunately, with iron poisoning, working at the wildlife care center where public brings them in. And so I've seen that firsthand. It's heartbreaking, and they're emaciated usually is what happens. Yeah. But I was wondering, what as a commission can we do, Matt, to help you, to support you in this endeavor? Because it's obviously something we would want to support, and the laws are on the books.
Well, again, the best things that you guys can do is, if you are aware of opportunities for outreach, would be one. If you know newsletters, if you know events. I mean, we do a fair amount of outreach. I mean, for example, I'll be in Folsom on Wednesday doing outreach at a California Waterfowl Association banquet. But we're a nonprofit and we're limited on what we can do. I work 40 hours a week. So if there's opportunities that benefit from non-lead outreach where you can utilize us as a resource, that's fantastic. I know that, I'm not asking for money or anything, but I know in the future, like we do events like the International Sportsman's Expose is held in Sacramento. I'm hoping that we can get our act together and send in some grant requests for propagation funds to basically pay for or to request funds for booth displays at some of these expos that might cost money, that we're hamstrung by, we're limited on what we can do. So if there's events in Sacramento County that we can do non-lead outreach for that might have a cost barrier, if we came forward with a proposal in the future, I'd hope that you guys would consider that. But again, I'm not here today asking for money, just to bring more awareness and information to this topic.
That's a good thing, Matt, probably because we have no money.
Nope, there you go. I mean, and one reason I know that sometimes these commissions, and they're different. Normally they're titled Fish and Game is the ones I primarily talk to, but they're responsible for distributing the fish and game propagation funds from fines that the wardens find in the counties for angling and hunting violations.
Well, what we could consider as a commission, though, is a letter of support if you are proposing, like, to the county, for instance, something like that.
Or the
So,
Fish and Game.
yeah, something, so we could be helpful in that realm.
And I guess just to follow up on, if you guys do know of ranching, or whether that's connections to the Cattlemen's Association or any other groups where there's more rangeland interface, essentially where there's opportunities to do outreach, whether it's just another one of these, a short 10-minute presentation just to more people who may not have received the information before. Any of that's valuable for me. Makes me look good to my boss, but it gives me more opportunity to do outreach, which is at the end of the day my job requirement and something I actually have passion about and want to do.
Matt, have you connected with the places like Consumers River Preserve and Deer Valley and all that partner with the landowners and have relationships with them?
Some, I mean, I've done, and there's two other individuals who do non-lead outreach in the state, and my organization's been doing it from 2007. So I'm kind of stepping on the shoulders of my predecessors, and I have colleagues who also are engaging in outreach across the state. So we have worked with a lot of ranches. I've only been here for 6 months, but I'm trying to talk to like the military bases, and I've done a lot of outreach at like Fort Hunter Liggett. And so we're only a few guys, so we're keeping, keep chugging along, and especially working further up north, a lot of the outreach has focused on the south. We've done a lot of outreach overlapping the Condors range, and the two guys who I work with are based in Santa Barbara and Ventura area. So they're just, it's a farther drive. If gas is nearly $5 a gallon, so driving, to the northern parts of the state it does cost money, and it does limit us in the amount of opportunities that we have to do outreach further north. Me being in Fresno opens that up a little bit more, but we still got to plan our events kind of strategically so that we're not, drying up our budgets too fast.
Oh, sure. And the wildlife, what's the words I'm looking for? The big preserves, the wildlife preserves here in California, they allow hunting on those huge preserves. Another opportunity if you're not already there too.
Mm-hmm.
I have to
Any other
ask,
questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got to ask the big one. What reception, if any, have you got from the NRA?
I know that, so I consider myself a pretty grassroots non-lead outreach. There's a lot more ties. So with the North American Non-Lead Partnership, so they are more nationally recognized, and so that's a partnership that's with the Peregrine Fund and the Oregon Zoo, as well as Institute for Wildlife Studies, for the co-founders. And they've got much more engagement with manufacturers and the NRA and some of the larger groups, trying to, create messaging, kind of keep everybody on the table. But for me, I consider myself much more of a grassroots kind of, I'm going small, having the conversations with individuals and working my way up here just in California rather than on like a national scale.
And what's the fine if game warden checks your ammunition and finds you using lead? Do you know?
I know you get a citation. I think it's a lot dependent on the warden themselves. And I mean, there's been wardens who have told my boss that they're not going to enforce it, and they still plan to use lead. So there's, even within the agency, there's a lot of differences in how that law is going to be enforced and implemented. I know you'll get a citation, and I think there's a lot dependent upon who finds you and how they implement it, because it could be a common mistake. The thing about non-lead ammunition is there's not like a standardized stamp that goes on boxes. Every manufacturer can kind of use their own language on how they'll identify whether the box is lead or non-lead. So there's oftentimes, the bullets that are purchased, lead or non-lead, are going to be jacketed in copper. So some people may just have made a mistake and not been aware that they, fully intended to comply with the law and bought a bullet that, for all intents and purposes looks and mentions copper and doesn't mention lead outright, but it's actually a lead-based bullet. So I've talked to a couple wardens, and it's, you kind of gauge that they kind of assess it individually. But I've never seen it implemented fully, like in person, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, thank you. Good presentation.
Yes, we appreciate it. Thank you. So our next item is to look at our minutes, but Jill, since we don't have a quorum, we can't do that tonight, right?
No, we'll carry him forward to November.
Okay, Janae, have you got comments from yourself and your boss?
Yeah, so thank you for letting us be here. We have a couple updates. We have two items that I wanted to bring up and give you an update on. One was a fire at the Rancheria RV mobile home park that occurred on October 11th. 42 homes were destroyed, 150 residents were displaced. It took fire crews up to 2 days to put out the fire. PG&E has shut off power to the site, and it looks like it'll be another 2 weeks before they'll be able to resume power. So EMD has assessed the site. There is a small water system and a drinking water well there on site. The small water system does do arsenic treatment. Unfortunately, that treatment system is damaged beyond repair. But the good news is that the water well system wasn't damaged. So all the residents that are still in that area are being provided bottled water. So they have that. And EMD has reached out to the State Water Board and trying to obtain funds and help out with getting that small water system back on track. EMD also provided some assistance with hazardous materials assessments and also septic system assessments. And the owners working with their insurance company to clean up, and EMD is helping out with that as well and providing assistance as needed. The second item that I wanted to bring up was COVID assessments or COVID assistance. EMD is still continuing to provide assistance to public health for COVID outreach and messaging. On October 14th, we did a webinar with Public Health, Economic Development, and Burke to provide some assistance to the restaurant community. So we provided them with outreach materials. We're working on guidance for the holidays. We just completed guidance for Halloween. And then also the webinar focused on a COVID update, similar to what Dr. Kusiria talked about tonight. And then also economic development provided some information for financial assistance and other types of financial information or aid to restaurants and businesses that are impacted by COVID-19. It was very successful. We had about 60 attendees, and they were able to answer or ask questions and get some answers right there on the spot. And that's my update.
Wonderful. Thank you. One question for you. The Rancheria fire, is that the Jackson Rancheria?
It is on Brandon Island Road.
Oh.
Is that the same one?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's the fire. Yeah, down in the Delta. Yes.
Right.
Any other questions?
Do you know what
From the
caused
commissioners?
the mobile home fire, the park fire?
I personally don't know what caused that fire. No, I'm sure that it's been figured out, but I don't know what caused that fire. No.
I don't know what caused it, but it did happen during one of the big wind events that we had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really a mess because wasn't the peat burning or something down there too? It was.
That's a different
news.
fire. Yeah, that's
Oh, it is.
Fire, that fire's been burning since June.
Oh, okay. Any other comments, Janae?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any reports back from the commissioners on their contacts with people in there? I have a quick one if you want to hear something about PFAS. I understand the governor just signed a couple bills. One is to prevent the use of that material in children toys. Seems like a good idea, especially in maybe pacifiers. And the other is to require people that manufacture things like cookware with PFASs in it to notify the consumer that they're buying something with that in it. So there may be some progress in that area. Anybody else have any?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you all probably heard that we banned, the California banned leaf blowers and gas generators, I think 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought it was 5, but it might be 3.
Okay, maybe it is 2025. I just know it's a few years away.
Yeah. Okay, the only other things that I had on my little list that was given to me by you-know-who is that in a November meeting, we need to vote for the chair and co-chair for the upcoming year. We also need to look at our meeting schedule for 2022, and we also need to come up with a topics committee for that year. So between now and our November meeting, if you all can be thinking of who might work out in any of those jobs or something about our schedule, we should be prepared to discuss that in November.
I have a question. Are we going to get any new commissioners to take the holes?
I cannot answer that, Laura. Yeah, just waiting for the various cities.
Okay.
So how many openings do we have for the city of Sac?
City of Sac is 3, I believe. I'd have to look it up. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's more than 1 though. I have a fellow that may
It's
be
more than
interested.
1. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a guy that might be interested and we might enjoy him. So I'll tell him. Anyway, our next meeting then is November 15th at 6, same time, same place. Any other comments for the evening? Eric?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, okay. The yellow thing just went to you. Okay, then I guess it's time to say good night. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Good night,
thank you.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.